Hello, welcome to my show, The Raman Effect, and my name is VENKAT. December 14, 1946, New York City. American Secretary of State James Burns had arranged a quiet meeting with Danish Foreign Minister Gustav Rasmussen at a Manhattan hotel. No press, no fanfare. What Burns was about to propose would remain a secret for 45 years. The conversation started pretty normally. Post-war security, NATO planning, the Soviet threat. Then Burns made an offer that left the Danish minister visibly shaken. He offered to buy Greenland outright, $100 million in gold bullion. Rasmussen did not know how to respond. According to Burns' classified memo, the proposal came as a shock, though Rasmussen did not reject it flatly. This wasn't spontaneous. Earlier that April, State Department official John Hickerson had attended a classified meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. His memo was striking. It says, Greenland is completely worthless to Denmark and the control of the Greenland is indispensable to the safety of the United States. Think about the language. Completely worthless to Denmark, indispensable to the United States. American military planners saw Greenland as the key to everything. Soviet bombers striking American cities would fly over the Arctic, over Greenland. The shortest route between Moscow and New York went straight through that frozen island. Of course, Denmark refused, but America got permanent basing rights. Thule Air Base was established, America's northernmost military installation, 950 miles from the North Pole. The entire negotiation stayed secret until 1991, when a Danish newspaper published the declassified documents 45 years later. But that 1946 offer was not America's first attempt. 1867. Secretary of State William Seward had just bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Newspapers mocked it as Seward's folly, Seward's icebox. Who would buy frozen wasteland? Seward was not done. He commissioned a detailed survey of Greenland. The report described vast quantities of whale, seal, cod, and crucially, good coal on the western coast of Greenland. His Treasury Secretary recommended buying both Greenland and Iceland from Denmark for $5.5 million in gold bullion. Negotiations were reportedly nearly complete. The then US President Andrew Johnson faced impeachment. Congress killed the deal. Decades passed. Alaska turned out to contain gold, then massive oil. Seward's critics went silent. You see, World War II changed everything. Nazi Germany invaded Denmark in 1940. German forces established weather stations in Greenland. The United States moved in, kicked out the Nazis, built its own bases. Greenland also had cryolite, a rare mineral crucial for aluminium production. American bombers were built with Greenlandic minerals. When the war ended, American forces stayed. That's what led to Burns' 1946 offer. Now, after so many years, this is 2026, and this time the American President Donald Trump is not sending classified memos. He is saying it out loud. We are going to do something in Greenland whether they like it or not. Trump said on January 9th, I would like to make a deal the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we are going to do it the hard way. And the White House press secretary confirmed too. I quote, utilizing the US military is always an option. That's what she said. But here's why everyone is taking Trump seriously this time. Venezuela. On January 4th, as you all know, US Special Forces captured President Maduro and Trump announced America would run the country during the transition. Of course, there is no clarity yet on that front. 5 days later, Trump said the hard way about Greenland. He had just proved he'd actually do it. However, the response was immediate and unified. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned, and I quote, if the United States attacks another NATO country, everything would stop, including NATO. On January 13th, just before this week's emergency talks at the White House, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen stood alongside Frederiksen in Copenhagen and declared, we choose Denmark, not America. Denmark. Greenland's party leaders, including the opposition, issued a joint statement, and it says, we do not want to be Americans, we do not want to be Danes, we want to be Greenlanders. And when asked about accepting cash payments to join the United States, one new president said, any number in the world and we will say no. It belongs to us and only us. The leaders of France, Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland and Spain issued a joint statement and they said Greenland belongs to its people. Reports indicate UK military chiefs are now drawing up a contingency plan for a NATO mission in Greenland, deploying British troops, warships and aircrafts. And what about China? Beijing too dismissed Trump's justification on January 13th, calling it an excuse for territorial ambitions. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning stated China's Arctic activities are about promoting peace, stability, and sustainable development under international law. This matters because Donald Trump's entire argument is if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland. China just said publicly we are not trying to take over Greenland. That undermines his rationale. On January 15th, Danish and Greenlandic officials met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the White House. Every news outlet covered the threats, the meeting, the diplomatic crisis, but they are missing the real question. Why does this keep happening? Why 1867? Why 1946? And why now 2026? The answer? What is underneath that ice? Between 1946 and 2026, two things transformed Greenland from a frozen military outpost into a potentially the most valuable territory on Earth. First, the ice started melting. Second, China took control of something the entire world economy depends on. In 1946, Greenland was 80% covered in ice. Impenetrable, inaccessible, mining was impossible. Then the Arctic started warming 4 times faster than the global average. In September 2024, Arctic sea ice hit 3.9 million square kilometers, the lowest since satellite measurements began in 1979. That melting is exposing something. Greenland contains 1.5 million tons of rare earth reserves, 8th in the world. But it has 2 deposits among the largest on the planet. Quannifiel, the 3rd largest known deposit with over 11 million metric tons, and Tanbreez, potentially the world's largest at 28.2 million metric tons. But here's the problem. China controls roughly 90% of global rare earth processing. Not mining, processing. That is a crucial bottleneck. In April 2025, China imposed export controls on heavy rare earths. Western automotive supply chains immediately experienced shortages. Electric vehicle manufacturers could not get dysprosium for motors. Wind turbine companies could not source neodymium for magnets. The entire green energy transition, the move away from fossil fuels every Western government committed to, depends on minerals China overwhelmingly controls. Greenland contains 18% of global reserves for these critical elements. Scientists say the island could meet a quarter of global demand. During World War II, Greenland had the Evitut mine, one of few places with cryolite deposits. It operated successfully until 1987. So mining in Greenland is not theoretical. But rare earths are different. For every ton extracted, 2,000 tons of toxic waste are generated, and that is potentially harmful. Also, China cornered the market by subsidizing the industry and absorbing environmental costs, and that worked. So what is the real game being played? Let us look at 5 dynamics that I observed and they matter the most. 1. The Arctic is opening. Climate change is not just exposing minerals, it is opening entirely new shipping routes. Arctic routes are 30% to 50% shorter than the Suez and Panama Canals, reducing transit time by 14 to 20 days. In October 2025, a Chinese container ship completed the Northern Sea Route maiden voyage, cutting Asia to Europe transit from 45 days to 20 days. Every current shipping route goes through choke points like Suez, Panama, Malacca. These are controlled territories where ships can be blocked. Arctic routes bypass all that. They are international waters. Whoever has bases and infrastructure in the Arctic controls the access. And Greenland sits right in the middle. Number 2, the China factor. China has declared itself a near-Arctic state and launched a Polar Silk Road initiative too. In the last decade, China attempted to invest in Greenland's airports, naval stations, and satellite facilities. United States and Danish stakeholders blocked most of these, but they could not block China's dominance in rare earth processing. Even if Greenland starts mining tomorrow, where do those materials go to be refined? China, because there is no alternative at scale. US officials extensively lobbied Tanbreez mining to prevent its sale to Chinese buyers. Tanbreez sold to New York-based Critical Metals Corp for reportedly less than Chinese offers. But that does not solve the processing problem. And number 3, the defense argument, and why it does not add up. You see, President Donald Trump's defense rationale is not made up. The Arctic genuinely matters for US security. Russian submarines transit through the GIUK gap, the maritime passage between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, to access the Atlantic. And any missile attack on the United States from Russia or China would likely fly over Arctic ramps. And Thule Air Base in Greenland has radar systems that provide early warning for missile launches. This is real strategic infrastructure. China is building icebreakers, establishing research stations, calling themselves a near-Arctic state, as I mentioned before. And when Trump says, if we don't take it, China will, there is a kernel of truth. China would love access to Arctic bases. But here's the problem with Donald Trump's argument. America already has Thule Air Base. It's been there since 1951. Denmark has never threatened to kick the US out. In fact, Denmark has been a loyal NATO ally for 77 years, allowing America to expand its military presence whenever requested. The 1951 Defense Agreement gave the United States extensive rights, so extensive that a State Department official in 1955 admitted that the US was permitted to do almost anything literally in Greenland. And when America wanted to expand Thule Air Base in 1954, Denmark allowed it. The relationship worked because Denmark trusted the United States and benefited from the security umbrella. If President Trump's concern is genuinely about defense, about radar systems, about monitoring Russian submarines, about preventing Chinese access, he could just ask Denmark to expand Thule's capabilities. No purchase necessary, no military threats needed. Denmark would probably say yes because they benefit from US defense umbrella too. So why the urgency to actually own the territory? Why threaten military force against an ally who is already giving you what you need? That is where the rare earths, the Arctic shipping routes, and the long-term resource controls come in. The defense argument is real, but it does not explain the aggression. And comes number 4, the Venezuela president. On January 4th, US military captured Maduro, and on January 9th, 5 days later, Katie Miller, wife of Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff, posts an American flag covering Greenland with caption, "Soon." That is not subtle. That is a declaration. In 1867 and 1946, America accepted no as an answer. But not this time. Donald Trump explicitly said military force is always an option. His advisor Stephen Miller said, and I quote, "Nobody is going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland." That is audacious. And he might be right. Denmark's entire military is smaller than a single US Marine division. But Denmark's calculation is not military. They are calculating whether NATO survives if America attacks a NATO member. They are betting it doesn't. And number 5, the infrastructure reality. Here's what nobody is discussing. Even if Donald Trump gets Greenland tomorrow, mining is insanely difficult. Greenland has few roads, no railways, minimal infrastructure. Operating costs are 5 to 10 times higher than anywhere else. The Kwani fuel project started in 2007, still not producing. Tanbreez just completed its economic assessment in 2025. Industry experts say production is at least a decade away. Greenland passed a legislation in 2021 restricting uranium byproducts because rare earth deposits contain radioactive materials. So if it is this hard and this far away, then why is Donald Trump pushing now? Because this is not about mining tomorrow. It's about controlling who mines in 20 years. Trump sees 3 things converging over here. Number 1 is the Arctic ice, and that is melting. New shipping routes are opening up. Whoever controls Arctic territory controls those routes. And number 2, China, which dominates processing now. But if the West builds an alternate facility over the next decade, those need rare earth sources outside Chinese control, and Greenland becomes essential. Number 3, climate change makes Greenland's resources accessible. It was impossible to mine in 1946, marginally viable in 2026 right now, but potentially profitable by 2040. Trump is locking in control before that window closes. 3 presidents tried to acquire Greenland. Under President Andrew Johnson's leadership, Secretary Seward failed, Congress would not fund it, Truman failed, Denmark refused, but Trump is trying a third approach. He is not asking permission, he wants to use the might and force. The easy way or the hard way is not bluster. It's a genuine ultimatum, but Donald Trump might be miscalculating. In 1867, there was no NATO. In 1946, NATO was just forming. In 2026, NATO has existed for 77 years, the most successful military alliance in human history. If America attacks Denmark to seize Greenland, the alliance is over. Not damaged, it's over. That's why European allies are preparing for the unthinkable. UK military officials are reportedly planning how to defend Greenland, not from Russia or China, but from the United States. Think about what that means. NATO members planning to defend a NATO member from NATO's founding member. Here's what really at stake. For 80 years, the global order operated on a principle. Borders are sacred, sovereignty matters, military might does not give you the right to take what you want. For Donald Trump, those rules never really existed. Power is what matters for him. And China gets that. Russia gets that too. America should stop pretending. Maybe he's right about the rare earths. Maybe China's monopoly is a genuine security threat. Maybe Greenland's resources are too important to leave in Danish hands. But there's a cost. The cost is the alliance system that prevented great power wars for 80 years. The cost is NATO. The cost is the idea that treaties mean something. Greenland is not just about minerals or shipping or bases. It is a test of whether the old rules still apply or whether we've entered an era where might makes right. See, the ice is melting, the resources are there, the great powers are watching, and 57,000 Greenlanders are saying, we don't want to be Americans, we want to be Greenlanders. Whether anyone listens will tell us everything about what kind of world we are living in now. If you like this video, please subscribe, please like, and please leave a comment. I want to know what you think about this whole situation. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.